Hello, Joy Olson, Blockbuster Fundraising. How about taking some time this summer to get your best stories ready? Don't you think this would be just a perfect time? Well, summertime is the perfect time to get your stories ready for fall fundraising. Hey, the best communicators have always been storytellers. Think about the great communicators that you know personally. Chances are they're almost always telling stories, from bedtime stories to the I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King. Stories have captivated our imagination and left us craving for more. Stories influence people. They influence their emotions, behaviors, and actions. And stories find their way to human hearts and heads in a way that very few, if any, other communication methods can. We're hardwired to respond to stories. We tend to remember a good story way longer than we remember a fact or figure. Stories told orally were one of the first forms of human communication and, in large part, were used to learn from one another's experiences. When we are hearing a fact or a figure, only our language processing part of the brain activates. But when we are listening to a story, many other parts of the brain light up as well. So this is why stories can be an incredible tool for fundraising, raising awareness, mobilizing volunteers, building trust, and so much more. And this is especially the case for nonprofits, since they are in a way in the business of stories, changing the world one story at a time. Nonprofits tend to have the raw material for powerful impact stories right at their fingertips. Stories of perseverance, hope, and new beginnings. Yet, they rarely commit the resources to gather these stories and use them. So let's take a closer look right now at why they should. Why is storytelling important? Stories help create context. They provide meaning and purpose. They help us relate and empathize. Here is why your nonprofit should use storytelling. Stories create context. It may seem counterintuitive to start with a story when crafting a marketing strategy, but because stories help us relate and are memorable, they can ground your nonprofit strategy. Storytelling is a valuable tool to help donors understand the context in which you operate by seeing the challenges your beneficiaries or your nonprofit are facing. For example, a nonprofit innovating in the category of food waste may use their latest technological advancements or the results of their program to develop a fundraising pitch. However, donors respond better to a story about a low-income family whose child can now afford education because they have food on the table. Stories help us see the context. Secondly, stories move people to act. People make decisions on an emotional level. Logic and data are important. However, it is fundamentally emotion, backed up by logic, that makes us move or change. Stories create emotion in us like nothing else. In fact, without a story, there would be no emotions at all. Data can't cause emotion unless we can connect it to a story. Storytelling, if done well, can easily encourage people to donate, which is what every nonprofit wants to do. Thirdly, stories create a connection. We are hardwired to listen to stories. When we listen to stories, we are present and engaged. Whilst we debate, judge, and question facts, figures, beliefs, and opinions, we don't do the same with stories, at least not in the moment of listening. Stories bridge people and create empathy. They make us connect one to another. They work with commonality, highlighting things that we all share or can relate to. This is incredibly meaningful to any organization, and especially a nonprofit organization where emotions motivate charitable actions. Stories are captivating, but there is a limit to human attention. So make your story clear and succinct and focus on why your organization exists, what it hopes to accomplish, who you're doing it for, and why should your viewer or donor care. Secondly, stay away from facts and figures. This is not to say that your story can't include any facts or figures, but you shouldn't make those the centerpiece of your story. Talking about how many tons of food you distributed or how many families you've helped, that's not a story. It can help a story, but it's not a story. A story needs to emotionally engage and move to action. On the other hand, completely staying away from the data can make your story seem like fiction. Data comes next. This is the story, and here are the numbers that back it up. Thirdly, have a beginning, a middle, and an end. A part of what makes stories so enticing is their structure. Every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Make sure that your story, at the very least, has these three key components. The beginning. The protagonist is placed in a context and likely has a desire or goal. The middle. In pursuing their goal, the protagonist faces challenges and takes actions. And the end. The protagonist's life has changed in some way. Their actions and experiences during the story have changed their situation. Of course, this is the most basic structure, and there are many modifications to it. But you want to make sure you have the three basics. Fourthly, you want to build characters. In addition to having that beginning, middle, and end, perhaps the only other essential element to the story is a character. Characters give the audience something to identify with. They give them someone to root for or root against in the case of a villain. Fifthly, be specific. People relate to people and they donate to people. So make your story about a specific person or family or animal to help people empathize. Make it about the plight of a single person. People are more likely to relate to a story of an abandoned dog than a statistic like 1 million of dogs are abandoned annually. So help your audience understand some of the individual emotional stories that your organization can tell first, and then talk about the thousands you helped. Sixth, you can change your story. Sometimes nonprofits inherit stories and they feel obliged to keep telling them. Well, you can change your story at any point as long as it's aligned to your mission. Seventh, very important, know your audience. Although stories are pretty universal and the most basic story structure generally works across cultures and backgrounds, there is still a lot of value in investing time to understand your audience. Always ask yourself, who am I talking to? And how am I going to tell them this story in a way that most resonates with them? You can tell the same story in many different ways. You can tell one story from many different perspectives with different protagonists in different formats. 8, have a system in place. Good stories don't just always come to you. You have to look for them. have a place or people in place that will systematically capture your stories that you can then later use. Assign someone to ask others in the nonprofit about their stories on a regular basis. Ask on a regular basis, or create an online form, such as a Google form or a Google document that can be filled out by anyone. 9. Use your stories everywhere. Collecting stories is only one part of the process. Using the stories consistently and diligently comes next. Stories can be used as a fundraising tool, as a recruitment tool, as a business development tool, and so much more. For example, you can tell stories to breathe life into your values and mission. Like, what does responsibility as a value even mean? You can tell stories about mistakes you made and how you learn from them, showing your vulnerability. All kinds of ideas. And 10thly, be genuine and authentic. People are increasingly aware of when a brand or an organization are appealing to them or trying to sell something to them. This really can cause adverse reactions in which the individuals or possible donors are put off and they don't donate or buy as a result. Always share genuine stories in a way that is authentic to your nonprofit. Well, those are just 10 top ideas for you on getting your stories ready this summer. We hope that this will inspire you, will keep you on track to be gathering those stories. You know, in the summertime, sometimes we just enjoy ourselves a little too much and we forget about getting our stories together. And then in the fall, it's like, oh, which story should we use for our appeals, for year-end emails, etc., etc. So just look for your stories. Find authentic stories of someone in need, someone that is relatable, and tell it with empathy and emotion. And this is like a PS, but we have this great infographic from DonorBox that we want to put up and use. I think that you'll really enjoy it, and some of the things we've already hit on, and some of them might be new. But the very first one, and here we go, is envision your story. And you're going to see it there. A story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. We talked about that. And we talked about your protagonist being placed in a context and likely has a desire or goal. And they got to pursue that goal. And they got to show how their actions and experiences during the story have changed the situation. Next, you want to provide additional information. Although you want to portray a single story, today's donors demand information and transparency. So when determining which organizations to give to, they look, and they look hard, for evidence of impact. You must develop a compelling character. Every great story features a character, a hero or a protagonist, and people care. People care about people. And people donate to people. So you want to avoid stories about faceless and nameless groups. Your character should have a face, a name, and a voice. That's something very good to remember. Here, offer a solution. Extremely important. As a nonprofit telling a story, you need to provide a solution to the conflict in your story that moves your mission forward. It's important to empower donors to be a part of the solution, a part of the story. And certainly you want to guide the readers along the dramatic arc. So from your very basic beginning, middle, and end structure, you can use this pyramid that you see on the screen and see how it helps you to get from the beginning to the conflict, to the climax, and to resolution. All right, well, we hope that this helps you a lot. Hey, Joy Olson, Blockbuster Fundraising, joyolsongroup.com. 2 places you can go to find out more information. We're here live every Tuesday, 1 p.m. right now, Pacific Daylight Time. We're Instagram, Twitter. Hey, Instagram, we're loving our IGTV channel. And we love it that you come and spend a little bit of time with us to get inspired, because that's what we're trying to do here. Trying to bring you information from all the fundraising gurus in one place that you can come to 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, and maybe come across an idea that you're well aware of, you've just forgotten to use it, or something brand new. So keep up the good work. Have a great summer. Thanks so much for having been here. See you again soon, I hope. Bye-bye.